we're back to a neighborhood whose recovery we were celebrating in the State of the City speech, and you can see what we're so proud of. If you'd been on this block 10 years ago, it looked very different. But this is the kind of great neighborhood Detroit was famous for. And what we are doing in this city right now is replacing the lead service lines. And in Detroit, we've got the best water quality drinking water in America. We haven't had issues. We test it, and it is great. And I think everybody here knows the story of the tragedy in Flint that occurred when they switched off of Detroit water. And we've been fortunate, but here's the truth. These lead lines were put in 80, 90, in some cases 100 years ago. And over time, they will deteriorate. Detroit is different than a lot of other cities in America. We didn't wait till we had a health problem. We are getting ahead of it, and we are replacing those lead lines before we have any sign of it. And what Gary Brown and DWSD are doing now is replacing more than 150 lines a week, 8,000 a year. We expect to get through the entire city in the next 10 years. And we're doing it by hiring Detroiters and putting them to work. You're going to get a chance to hear from the kind of talent that we have in this city who's driving this. But before that, I want to bring up our partner, because we could not do this if it weren't for the state of Michigan. And since Phil Roos has taken over EGLE, he has been a breath of fresh air. We have a true partner in rebuilding the quality that we want in the city, in air, in water, and in contaminants. It's just been terrific. And $85 million that is financing this is coming from the state of Michigan. So I want to bring up the man who's made this project possible, EGLE Director Phil Roos.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for the kind comments here. I'm Phil Roos. I'm Director of Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy. We call it EGLE, and it's exciting to be here with you today. It's often said that Michigan is a state literally defined by its waters, and that's really true. We have 21% of the world's fresh surface water, and that water is the primary drinking source for 40 million people in the US and Canada, and certainly here in the city of Detroit. And at EGLE, our team wakes up every morning dedicated to protect those water resources and the public health that depends upon them for everybody here in the state. That's a top priority for EGLE. It's a top priority for Governor Whitmer. You've heard, it's a top priority for the mayor and the city of Detroit, and certainly for the 10 million residents of our state who really rely on the waters for drinking water, for recreation, and basic livelihood and way of life. I'm here today and really happy to be here to talk about some of the investments we've made as a state in particular to protect our waters. Big thanks to Mayor Duggan for your leadership and your partnership. It's so much appreciated, and it's just great. We have a lot of issues to tackle here. This is just one of them, and it's great to have somebody who works so closely together to get things done. It's exciting that this is the city that is probably is really a national leader in replacing lead service lines, and that's a big deal and something a lot of other cities around the country are going to learn from. I want to thank Gary Brown, the director of DWSD, and also the Russell Woods neighborhood for letting us jump in here in the middle of your day and occupy your streets here and witness the work that's going on. I want to really thank the folks who are members of the team at DWSD and also the Great Lakes Water Authority for the amazing work that they're doing and the part that they're playing in making Detroit a national leader. And finally, I've got some members of the EGLE team here. If you don't mind, I'd like to call out here. They don't get a lot of pats on the back or praise, but they do really a lot of the hard work to make all this possible. There are three of them here. There's Dan Beauchamp from our finance division. There's Brandon Onan and Jean-Pierre Nishimimana. Did I say that close to right? Okay, thanks. From our Drinking Water and Environmental Health Division. He's really the expert on lead service line replacement in our department, so thank you guys for all that you're doing. It's really great to see all the investments and the progress here, and all of it's about making Michigan and the city of Detroit a great place for families to live, work, and play. I wanted to say a few words about Governor Whitmer and her leadership in this area. since this has been top priority for her since day one. She came into office in January 2019. Since then, she and the state have invested $4 billion under the My Clean Water Plan and other state programs to upgrade drinking water, stormwater, and wastewater facilities. And that supported 57,000 jobs across the state. And about $1 billion of that money has gone specifically to lead service lines like what is happening here in Detroit. And we have the strongest lead and copper rule for protecting our citizens from lead contamination in the country, and we continue to have that. Just 2 weeks ago, the governor announced another $290 million increase in expansion of the My Clean Water Plan. And earlier the year, she had her recommended budget, which included another close to $70 million for water infrastructure projects, including another $40 million for lead service lines and expansion of our EGLE staff to help support that work. We're also taking advantage of federal dollars that are flowing to Michigan. President Biden's bipartisan infrastructure law provided almost $700 million for water infrastructure projects like are happening here. All of those investments have really helped us to make a significant progress in building the aging infrastructure we have in this country. We have water treatment plants, drinking water plants that are 50 years, sometimes 100 years old, a lot of deferred maintenance, and we're gonna make up for that as much as we can during this administration. We're really proud of everything that's been accomplished, but we've got a lot more to do, and while we're celebrating this work here today, tomorrow and beyond, we're going to keep rolling up our sleeves and leaning forward to get the rest of the job done. And we're going to lean on every bit of resource, federal, state, local, that we can to make it happen. And we're a partner here for Detroit in making that happen. It's all about the basic value of no matter where you are, where you live, everybody deserves clean water to drink, to recreate in, and to enjoy life in. And we're committed to making that happen. Thank you so much, and I want to introduce Gary Brown, the Director of DWSD. Thank you all.
Thank you, Director Roos. I also have to thank the Biden-Harris administration for the $15 billion that they're making available for states to remove and remove the risk of danger that these lead lines could possibly provide. Also, the governor's office and EGLE, the money's coming through the state revolving fund, and without their support in helping us to fund these projects, it couldn't be done. Most importantly, I want to thank the mayor for allowing me to be the head of DWSD at this particular time when this renaissance is going on in the city and so much progress has been made. I've worked for the city for more than 40 years, and I can tell you there's been more progress made in the last 8 or 9 years than in my whole time, at least in my eyesight, of working with the city. So I'm proud to be a part of DWSD at this particular time. This is really a win-win. We're hiring Detroiters with these dollars, as you're going to hear from the young man that's going to come up behind me next. We're hiring Detroiters, and there's nothing that will pull people out of poverty other than a job. And so not only are we removing the risk that lead lines can cause, but we're also providing jobs and opportunity for Detroiters. Now, this is going to be, over the next 8 to 10 years, an $800 million project. And yes, we're using Detroiters that work at DWSD to do these lines. We're also using every water contractor that's in the region. We are using a grant from EPA to hire some small plumbing companies that are based in Detroit. They'll be starting in the next couple of weeks to add on to the capacity. And we're using companies from outside the state to come in and build a workforce capable of removing hopefully 1,000 lines a month. That's our goal right now. And last month we did 830. So the 150, we've already surpassed that. We want to try to do 250 lines a week, 1,000 a month, and let's get these lines out of our city so that our residents are no longer at risk. With that said, I want to bring up Mr. Darius Bird. We're so proud of him, and I'm going to let him tell his story. I'm not going to tell it.
How you doing? Oh dang, I'm loud. But, my name Darius Bird. I work for DWSD Lead Service Line Replacement. I've been with DWSD for about a year now. I started working for the city about 3 years ago. At GSD, I attended the Skills for Life program that the mayor has for the city right now. I went to class for masonry restoration. I did that for about 3 months, and then I got hired with DWSD through other colleagues who recommended me coming over there. So when I got there, I worked in meter shop, and then I got switched to dart, heavy repairs, and then that's when I started doing lead service line replacement with Chauncey Philson, what's his name, Theron Martin, and those guys. I want to give a shout out to my team as well. Every day we do about 2 houses with lead service line replacement. We get out here, dig to the main, replace that old lead, and replace it with new copper, so we can get a city good water, good fresh clean water, and that's really what I do every day.
Thank you, Darius also has been able to take advantage of buying a home out of the land bank, and he's remodeling it, and he's inviting everybody here over for a barbecue as soon as he gets it done. I'd be remiss if I didn't also thank my deputy director, Sam Smalley, who was the chief operating officer and put the plan together that we're rolling out all over the city, and he's leading that. The men and women at DWSD are doing an outstanding job. With that said, I think we could take a few questions.
How many lines are there to replace?
We know that for a fact that we have approximately 800,000 lines with 80,000 lines with another 20,000 that are unknown. But I can tell you this, what we're seeing is 75% of what we're doing on these blocks are lead. So we make the assumption that the 20,000 that are unknown, at least 2/3 of them will turn out to be lead. So in excess of 80,000.
Direct what? Some of these houses, I would think, have lead lines, lead pipes in them. So by changing the service line,
Yeah.
are we getting anywhere?
Yeah, we also have our home repair Department of City Government has a program in which we're going in and trying to remove any lead that might be on the inside of the home. DWSD has a contract through WIIN Metro, our community action agency, and in our affordability program Lifeline, we're also going into homes and removing galvanized as well as any lead services that may be there.
That's under a separate program.
It's under a separate program, yes.
They don't go in the houses doing this.
No. They go into the house to change out the meter and connect to the meter inside the house, but they're not removing any lead inside the home.
How are you identifying which houses need
Yeah, that's a great question. We had 2 methods that we merged into one. We contracted with a company called Blue Conduit. It's a predictive software company that was recommended to us through EPA. And we asked them to work with the University of Michigan to do some predictive software as to where the lines are in the city. And then DWSD, we took a lot of data that we have when we're inside homes and have identified where lead is, along with the demolition program in the city of Detroit. As a house was demoed, the water had to be cut. We established whether that house had lead or copper, and we were able to put all of that data into a database that tells us the likelihood of density within a neighborhood. Most importantly, we're going into neighborhoods that are disadvantaged, low income. We're going into neighborhoods that have a lot of kids. We can look at the census and know what areas of the city there are kids, and we're working in those neighborhoods first.
So now if a resident wanted you to come check out
Shortly we'll be putting a map on our website as to when we're going to get to each neighborhood. But right now, we will do a one-off if it's an emergency. But other than that, we're sticking to our schedule.
What about the dangers of lead lines?
Yeah, I mean, for seniors and for kids, there's It's a known fact, it's a scientific fact that it causes developmental issues with kids. And we want to eliminate that risk. Unfortunately, prior to 1945, when most of the houses in the city of Detroit were built, the material of choice was lead. And right now, we use phosphate in our water that coats the line, and there's little to no danger of lead leaching out unless there's a break in the line. But this isn't really about the quality of the water. The quality is excellent. This is about removing the risk in the future of having a line break and cause danger to any of our residents.
It's probably not unique to Detroit. Do you know how we stack up in terms of replacing ours versus
Yeah.
some other urban city?
I can tell you this, around the Great Lakes, the top 4 cities with lead service lines are Chicago with 400,000, Milwaukee, Cleveland, and Detroit. Detroit is number 4. I've already said, we know we have 80,000. We could have as many as 100,000. But around the Great Lakes, the majority of lines in this country reside in those 4 states.
Gary,
Yeah.
So in January, I was in D.C. at the Conference of Mayors. We went over to the EPA and met with the EPA director to talk about lead line replacement. And the first thing was Gary Brown, Gary Brown, Gary Brown. Gary is leading the national committee on how this is being rolled out. So I was just really proud. The other mayors walking out with me from Philadelphia bosses, say, who's this Gary Brown? But we have this level of expertise, and we should be proud of it.
Did he ask for a raise yet?
Gary always asks for a raise.
I'm not shy about, next Monday, I'll be in D.C. At EPA with the local government advisory committee that I chair on lead service lines, and we're going to be discussing how other cities can model what Detroit's doing and go faster.
Wait, what's the estimated cost to replace?
Yeah.
Is
That,
this enough money to finish it?
well, no, the estimated cost per line on this block is $9,300, which in Chicago you would see is 3 times that amount. So it differs in different areas of the country, but we've been able to drive costs down because we're hiring Detroiters at DWSD to also do the work and set the market price. And so the second part of your question was?
Is this enough to?
No, EPA is saying that to remove all the lines in this country would take between 50 and 80 billion dollars. The Biden administration has put forth $15 billion. So when that gets spread out around the country, it's not going to be enough to get all the lines out of the country. But it's my job to try to get as much money up front so that we can get Detroit's lines out first.
When you mentioned the 9,000, was that per house? And
$9,300 per house, yes.
is there a cost to the resident? Is that the resident's cost, or how's that work?
No, it's all being paid for through the federal and state dollars that we're receiving. This isn't costing the residential customer anything.
Gary, you want to talk about how you're using the direct employees' costs against the contractor costs?
Yeah, when I told the mayor how the cost was rising, he strongly suggested that I hire members of the community to do this work so that we could drive the price down. And I was a little skeptical, but I couldn't be prouder of the men and women at DWSD that have taken to this work, like Darius. And it allows us, when we can bid against the contractors, we can drive the price down, and that's what we're doing.
How does it work that hiring local is cheaper? I mean, are we cheaper? Are we just cheaper?
No, because our locals are getting union wages, they're getting health care, and they're getting benefits, and they're still able to compete at a lower rate than contractors.
Yeah, so I want to talk about this for a second. So you think about this. If I could rerun the demo program back to 2014, I would have done this, and I learned from that. But it's not Detroit that's the only one that's hiring this. Phil is funding how much statewide?
$4 billion.
$4 billion. There's contractors who have jobs all across southeastern Michigan, all across the state. And so when they bid on a Detroit project, they know they've got a lot of other choices. And so the demand is exceeding the contractor capacity. If you're a contractor, that's a formula for a really good profit margin. And so my point to Gary was, we're paying our workers the same as they are, but I didn't want to be in a situation where a shortage of contractors was going to drive the costs up. And so we are in a really nice situation now. We have the expertise to ramp up self-operating, self-hiring, or use contractors. And if the contractor rates stay fair, it's simpler for us to use the contractors. Contractor rates start to soar, Gary can add more crews, and that's exactly the way it's working.